All right, here we go. Salute to NBA Nation on this Friday afternoon matinee edition of the NBA Report at KnicksFanTV Live. CB the Franchise joining me today, friend of the program. We got Dexter Henry, New York Post Sports, New York Got Game podcast, play-by-play extraordinaire. The man wears many hats. On today's show, we are going to react to the latest in round 2 around the National Basketball Association. The Knicks looking to go up 3-0 on the Philadelphia 76ers. How do they survive without OG Anunoby? The Cavs once again getting dog-walked by Cade and the Pistons. Could Jaylen Brown be on the trading block? We got a lot to talk about. Plus, the Lakers crying foul after OKC manhandles them again. So lock in. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. Salute to everybody watching on KnicksFanTV and the NBA Report. Make sure you are subscribing to both channels, as well as New York Post Sports podcast with Dexter Henry. Okay, here we go. All right, Dex, happy Friday, man. How you feeling, man?
Feeling tired, man. These games every other day is getting to us, bro.
Right,
it's getting to us.
We ain't spring chickens no more, man.
Nah. We know what time it is, and hey, we love this. We love this, but it is a little tiring. I'm like, this second round feels a little more exhausting than last year in the second round, because you and I we talked a lot during the Boston series, and we got to hang out too after that. But this year feels like a lot.
Hey, I ain't no spring chicken, man. Waking up, this is the first time I really feel old, man. Waking up, man, you just be sore, just be tired. I had to go to sleep at 11:30 just to make it through tonight, because I got to head down to Philly for the game, man. But speaking of Philly, you got the Knicks and the Sixers going at it 7 o'clock on Amazon Prime down in Philadelphia, or should we say MSG Turnpike South, if you will, because for all the talk that the Sixers were talking about blocking Knicks fans from the building, there's still plenty of tickets left on Ticketmaster, and so seems like the Sixer fans aren't even trying to show up for this game. But either way. Yeah. The story going into this one, man, OG Anunoby, questionable for games 3 and 4. And I lost my camera here for a second. Hang on. Questionable for games 3 and 4. But what do you think, man? What do you think about OG, the injury, and where the Knicks go from here?
So, look, when the news came out yesterday, CP, I was like, all right, this sounds like the best-case scenario the Knicks could have got. Hamstrings are nothing to play around with. The fact that he's listed a day-to-day, Ian Begley had reported that, look, he thought that he would, recover for this. He'd be able to come back. Our Stephen Bondi said, this should be a very, very easy injury for him to recover. I believe that was the exact tweet. So that was encouraging news. With all that being said, my guy, if I'm the Knicks, don't play around with this, okay? I don't think OG should play tonight. I wouldn't even play him in game 4, win or lose. Maybe there's a world you talk about if they drop both of these in Philadelphia, game 5, you need them, fine. But hamstrings, I think you just want to be a little bit more conservative with this. The goal is to win 16. The Knicks have 6. They need 10 more to go. You got to think a little bit long-term here. Do I think the Knicks can win this series without OG Anunoby? Absolutely. I do think they can. I think they've got enough dogs to do it. I think they're still the deeper team. It'll be interesting if OG doesn't go tonight. I saw you put out a video earlier, and I agree with you 100%. Start Deuce. I'm starting Deuce here. I know there's been some talk for the double big lineup. For me, go with Deuce. We know how he's fit seamlessly in with the starters, CP. I think he can flow well there, and then you still have your size off the bench. Now, what does Mike Brown do after that? Does he play Diawara a little bit? I wouldn't mind seeing that. I know some people are going to call more for Sohan, but I get worried about his offense. Yeah. Or lack of offense, I should say. So, I would play this cautious. Look, there's a world in which I would be totally fine if you're a Knicks fan with saying you don't see OG until the next series. Now, I'm not trying to brag and talk and say the Knicks are definitively going to make the next series, but what I'm saying is I think they can win this series without OG Anunoby. And with that being said, I think the Knicks have to think long-term. You don't want this to be like 2024 when they had to bring him back for the Game 7, and I understand that was a Game 7 against the Pacers, but you want OG to be right when he does come back.
Big time, big time. I think it's imperative for them to rest. Now, they seem to be confident that it's very minor and that he could play in this game if he felt good enough to do so, depending on how he felt today. But I think it's best for this team. This is a guy with a history of hamstring injuries, the debilitating one that came in 2024 against the Pacers, the one that came this year, and they cannot afford to lose him, especially if they advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. They will likely be taking on the Detroit Pistons in the Battle of the East. You need him against Cade Cunningham. You need him against, maybe even a Tobias Harris, who's coming on strong right now for the Pistons. OG right now leading in points per possession in the playoffs in isolation. How about that?
In isolation? That's what's crazy.
59% from three and leading in points per possession in isolation, man. Incredible basketball right now.
Incredible. Now, look, some of that shooting is going to regress to the mean.
Yeah.
We know that, but he's still been, to your point, CP, he's been the Knicks' most consistent player throughout the playoffs. You can count on him. You can bank on him. The two-way ability is amazing. 4 steals in the last game. I agree with everything you said. You got to get him right. Look, and I know we'll get to this. Cleveland has not looked good. But even if you have to play Cleveland, you're still going to need him. He's very important to what the Knicks do. I don't see the Knicks getting to the finals without him. I don't see them winning the championship without him. You're going to need OG Anunoby. I've long said he's the most important Knick, and I think these playoffs are showing you that. Whether you want to call it important, valuable. He's not Brunson, he's not Cat, but he's the Knicks' best two-way player, and I think that matters a ton.
Yeah, I think Mike Brown goes to start with Deuce, and I think everybody slots up. I know a lot of people want to see Diawara. I think it's Shamet time. It's back to Shamet, Clarkson for sure, Alvarado, and Mitch. I think that's where it goes. And if you need, look, Sohan's been situational in this series so far. I think the same case can be made for Diawara as well as Sohan, depending on how things go. If Josh Hart, who is now probable with the thumb, if you get into foul trouble a little bit, you got to go to Sohan in the backup 5. You got to go to Diawara here and there, take on Paul George. Certainly could be, but I still think it's going to be Shamet, Clarkson, and Jose being the primary 3 off the bench. Plus, you got big country Mitchell Robinson as your big man.
Yeah, look, and CP, and maybe a slight on me. I don't want to disrespect Shamet here. He was really good when he came in the game defensively in game 2. I think people will say, he hasn't been making the shots, since he's come back from injury. And that's true. But he did give the team a defensive lift when he came in game 2, especially when the bigs were in foul trouble. So you have to credit him for that. And we know this is, I think, what you're leaning to. We know Mike Brown trusts him. We know this beyond a shadow of a doubt that Mike Brown trusts him to play good defense, to be a good point of attack defender, to get up in guys. We know he can do that, and so he can make life difficult. So, yeah, I think we'll see some Shamet. I think Shamet's going to have to step up. Also going to need to knock down some shots.
Yes.
But I definitely think you can see him there for sure.
Big time. And Joel Embiid questionable in this one to come back from the hip, the ankle, the neck, the back, everything. What did you see out of game 2 that you liked, or this series rather, and what do you want to see in game 3 for the Knicks to take this one up, go up 3-0?
What I liked in game 2, and I said this when we were doing post-game, CP, is that, I think we fans got a little spoiled the previous 4 games, right? It's just like, oh man, this is the Knicks A+ game. They're going to cruise on through. For me, it was, they got tested a little bit with a team that is definitely better defensively without Joel Embiid. I'm not saying they're a better team without Joel Embiid, but they're better defensively without Joel Embiid. And I think that changed a little bit for the Knicks. Now, the Knicks weren't able to, Joel Embiid not being on the floor, they weren't able to attack him in pick and rolls. Joel Embiid was not good in drop coverage in game 1, and that's why Jalen Brunson was cooking. And if he plays tonight, I expect more of the same from the Knicks. I expect them to attack him again there. But what I think I liked overall from the Knicks was their process. They didn't get down. They still stuck to their process. Even when Cat was in foul trouble, one of the big things for me, and this might be part of his growth, he still was able to be used as an offensive hub in that third quarter and really get things growing. And he cut the stupid fouls, because the fouls were stupid in the first half. There was one questionable one, so I want to let him off the hook. But the third foul he got early in the second quarter, it was like, come on, man. But he cut that down. He was really focused. He was fantastic on that end. And I think, secondly, Mikal Bridges. The defense has been good for him all playoffs long. But now he looks a little bit more confident in his shot. He hit some big-time shots.
Yes, he did.
Especially in the mid-range. So I like seeing that from him and that process for the Knicks of other guys being able to step up other than Brunson. So I thought all in all, it was a good win for the Knicks. I think they should be confident they can beat this team with Joel Embiid. Without Joel Embiid, they've seen both ways they're going to try to attack them defensively. So, yeah, I think the process for the Knicks is good. And, I don't think the Knicks are going to be deterred even without OG tonight. I expect a good game, a competitive game. The
Yeah.
Sixers have to win this game.
Yes.
They got to win this game.
They absolutely do. And for the Knicks, they're going to have to be ready to work tonight. They're going to have to be ready to work. Human nature kind of kicks in. Philadelphia, they're going to be playing on another level. The Knicks have to be able to meet that level of intensity. You can expect the same physicality and the same defensive intensity because I thought Philadelphia's defense was really good in Game 2. So the Knicks have to expect that. Stay patient with their offense. Continue to spray the ball around and get good looks. And I think in this one, you'll have a much more disciplined Karl-Anthony Towns. You get Mitchell Robinson back. That way you can win the possession battles. And so I still like the Knicks in this one as long as they meet that level. Because, look, this is Game 3. I think it's going to be the same situation in Game 2 where the referees are going to be a little bit more lenient with Philadelphia to try to help them. And so the Knicks have to be on guard for that. Play through the adversity. No technical fouls, Josh Hart. Remain disciplined and keep that ball spraying around. I love the defensive intensity on Tyrese Maxey the entire series. As he said in the postgame in Game 2, they are very aggressive with their traps. So I want to see the Knicks continue to stay that way, stay aggressive on the traps, and make these other guys beat you. Put the onus on a VJ Edgecombe, a rookie. Had a better game in Game 2. I loved his defense on Brunson in Game 2, but put the onus on Edgecombe to make a play. Put the onus on Kelly Oubre to knock down a corner three. Hey, put the onus on a 34-year-old Paul George, 36, however he is, on Paul George. You got to take that ball out of Maxey's hands as much as you can because when he gets downhill and gets into that mid-range, he is dangerous. So I think you can expect another 40-minute Maxey special, so the Knicks are going to have to hang on, man.
Well, it's funny. You said another 40-minute Maxey special, and he only played he played 46 minutes, I think, the last game.
Yes, he did.
Right? Look, that was a problem for the Sixers in that last game, fatigue.
Yes.
And this is where depth comes in, CP. If you're the Knicks, I think the Knicks controlled the pace in both of these games. I thought in the first game, they pushed when necessary, especially trying to attack Embiid, who his conditioning does not seem to be where it's supposed to be. So I think if Embiid plays tonight, you're going to see some more of that. But I agree with you 100%. Shot variance is going to come and go, and you saw that a little bit for the Knicks in Game 2. They didn't shoot the ball maybe as well as they had done in the previous 4 games, but the defensive rebounding was there. And when the defense and rebounding is there, you're still going to give yourself a chance. And then they were able to execute down the stretch in Game 2. Yeah, I think the defensive intensity has to be here throughout, CP. I could not disagree with you. I could not agree with you more. I don't disagree with you 100%. I think that they definitely have to make sure you don't get Maxey going and force other guys to beat you. I like that. Now, look, Paul George, he's made some tough shots in this series.
PG was
right?
on fire. He was on
The
fire.
shot making has been crazy, right? But then you haven't seen him late. You didn't see Maxey late. The Knicks, that last game, I don't know how you felt, but at halftime, I said, the Knicks are right, having right what they want.
Yeah.
Because the Sixers have played well for the most part, but then they only had, a slight lead. They're up by 1. The Knicks also, I think, have to force turnovers. They did a great job of this in the first 2 games.
Yes.
They've got to continue to force turnovers, win that turnover battle, win the rebounding battle. They didn't win that in Game 2, but they still were able to win because they were able to get more possessions in the points off of turnovers. So to me, it's defense and rebounding. If the Knicks do that, I think they have better players to execute late and win this game if it's a tight one.
Yeah, I agree with you there. What do you guys think in the chat? What's your prediction for tonight's matchup, Knicks and Sixers down in Philly for Game 3? Okay. Next matchup you had last night, the Detroit Pistons look like, could they be on the way to a sweep of the Cavs? They're up 2-0 right now, 107-97 over the Cavaliers. You had Cade Cunningham, sensational, 25 points, 10 assists. Tobias Harris chipping in with 21 points. On the flip side for the Cavs, Donovan Mitchell, despite a 31 points, but came up very, very empty in the clutch. And how about James Harden? Stumbling and bumbling all over the place, missed 10 or 13 shots, limited to 10 points, had 4 turnovers. Again, more turnovers and field goals, including one with 33 seconds left. What is going on with the Cavaliers, man?
So, look, Harden's going to get a lot of the ire from people here in the Cleveland media. And I was on another show this morning, and I was talking about this, and I think rightfully so. You can have more turnovers and field goals. That turnover late was bad. Donovan Mitchell was not efficient last night, despite the 31. I think the guy I'm looking at for a lot of this, Evan Mobley. Where's he been? And
Talk about it.
he hasn't. He's got punked by Duran inside. Okay, he's getting punked by the Detroit bigs. As Beef Stew is punking him. He's not showing the physicality. He has not evolved into the player that I think many people thought that he would be.
Yeah.
CP. In terms of a two-way player. Now, look, I know he won Defensive Player of the Year the previous year and all that, but he just hasn't been in this playoffs. And if you look at this Cavs team, this is something that was talked about with the Knicks a lot. They just have not rose to the level of physicality that Detroit has brought in the series. They didn't do it in the last series against Toronto. And that was alarming to me. That was a series I think many of us thought was a gentleman's sweep. And they did not take care of business against the Raptors. So the Cavs, this is a real gut check moment for that team because they are the only second apron team in the league this year. They're going to have a lot of questions going into the offseason, CP. And they have gotten punked, and just people are gonna look at Detroit and they're gonna say, "Hey, Dex, well, in the game two, they hit 50% of their threes." That's all well and nice, but when you look at that game, Detroit won that with defense.
Yes,
defense. They out-toughed them. They wore them down. Cade has been great in the clutch in these last couple of games, and he's looked fantastic down the stretch. And Detroit looks like they're starting getting a little bit of their swagger back in terms of how they want to play aggressively on defense. But Cleveland, if we're just keeping it a buck, they haven't met the moment. And listen, you could tell me all about James Harden, but the reason this Cavs team was going to level up and take that next step was Evan Mobley's got to be who we thought he was going to be. Right now, he hasn't been that, and I'm looking at Evan Mobley. Like, you got to help these guys out because, look, I don't know how you feel, CP. Maybe you the Harden stuff were just like, this is who he is in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is what we're saying, but Evan Mobley has got to take that leap in the playoffs and come up with a big-time playoff game. I'm looking at him more than anybody going into game three for the Cavs.
That's a good point. 9 points, 4-10 from the field from Evan Mobley, 4 dimes. He had 6 stocks, 3 steals, 3 blocks. But, look, I was never really a big believer in Mobley. I thought he was a little bit too much hype even coming into the league and all the expectations that he was just going to take this leap and become a force. I never really bought into it, especially watching the Knicks going up against the Cavs over the years. Good player, can play some solid defense, but I never saw his ceiling being that high as people wanted it to be. And right now he's coming up very small, can't handle the physicality, and Duran has been eating his food. On the Harden front, I thought that trade was always going to flop. It was only a matter of time before it did flop. And like I said, we're going to have that Donovan Mitchell conversation at the end of this regular season about him and coming up very small in the playoffs. Now, he had the 31 points. He did his job in the beginning, but in crunch time, he was nowhere to be found. And especially defensively, there was a clip of, like, Dean Wade just being absolutely, like, exhausted with him in terms of his screen navigation. So I think the Cavs all the way around, once again, just coming up a little bit soft. And, hey, give credit to the Pistons. The Orlando choke job woke them up. And this is a dangerous type of Piston squad. When Cade is going the way he was going, double digits in the fourth quarter, they shot 50% from the field, 50% from 3. It's dangerous. That's tough. It's tough, especially that three-point output. Yeah, Tobias Harris made 2 of 3. Duncan Robinson doing his job, 5 of 9. Cade, 3 of 6. You getting Karis LeVert, 2 of 3. You had Dennis Jenkins, 2 of 5. So it's a little tough when they're rolling like that, man. It's a little tough.
Yeah, it's tough when they're hitting their shots, but credit Detroit because they went through their offensive struggles against Orlando, who's a very good defensive team. But they've stuck with the process and they've brought that physicality. You're right, that game 6 choke job by Orlando, that has given Detroit new life because there's a world in which they shouldn't even be here right now. But they are. To me, I don't want to take away from what Detroit's doing. But they have played really good. Yeah. But the Cavs for that move, and I was with you, CP. I was not a believer in that Harden trade. There were a lot of people I've been on and other shows I've been on and stuff, and people were like, oh, well, the Cavs are going to move up there, and they're with the Knicks and the Celtics and the Pistons, and I always thought they were a tier below. And listen, Bernie Bickerstaff, JB Bickerstaff, he is enjoying this to the fullest with this 2-0 lead. Series is not over. The Cavs have enough offensive talent to get back into it, but I gotta see it. I definitely got to see it.
CP the franchise, Dexter Henry on the ones and twos. This is an NBA report, KnicksFanTV simulcast, recapping the NBA second round playoff action so far. And Dex, you had a little bit of a controversial one last night as the Thunder made quick work out of the Lakers, 125 to 107. And this one was mired in foul talk. You had JJ Redick complaining about LeBron James's whistle, which I thought was rich. On the other side, you had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander getting a little chippy, some say maybe a little dirty, with Austin Reeves. And then you had, at the end of the game, you had a powwow between Reeves and the Lakers with the referees at center court. I mean, this same conversation with OKC always comes up. The free throws, the free throws, the free throws. And it seemed like the Lakers had enough, man. OKC, they got 26 attempts. Lakers got 21. But the Lakers are not too happy about it, man.
Look, I'm glad you said it, my brother. This every time, this is now like par for the course with OKC. People are always going to be upset with the officiating against them. For me, look, it is what it is. And I know some people like to get into the foul merchant stuff with SGA. Look, all the great scorers get to the line. You know, it happens. Does it feel like OKC gets a different whistle from the rest of the league? Yeah, I can see that. But let's be real here. The Lakers, in my opinion, didn't really have a chance in this series. I thought this would be a sweep.
Yeah.
I just don't think they have enough defensively. I thought they played one of the best halves of the playoffs in the first half against OKC. They had SGA in foul trouble in this game. He picked up his fourth foul. I think it was 10 minutes to go in the third quarter. And they still couldn't capitalize off that. The Thunder's best player was off the floor, and they couldn't capitalize, which tells you how good and how deep they are, right? That's the problem. And so the Thunder are just too good. It's just a different level of class. Now, LeBron, after the game, he wasn't complaining about the officials. I understand what JJ Redick has got to do. I understand what Austin Reeves is trying to do. But, like, we got to keep it real. This Laker team isn't messing with this Thunder team. I think they'll be lucky if they win a game back at home. So, you know, you can talk about the refs all you want. Can you stop them? Can you get a stop when it matters? I don't see it. I don't see it for the Lakers with the Thunder.
No, the Luka injury changed everything for the Lakers.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately. And like you said, they're not in the same class as these guys. And look, it's not to say that the officiating needs to be reviewed and looked at, and I can understand the issues with the way that OKC's getting the calls. But, hey, Shai did have a good point. He said, look, the more physical team is usually the one that gets the benefit of the whistle in the playoffs. And I think he's right. I think he's right to a certain extent. But what I do find to be interesting is that even with just one ring under its belt, OKC's starting to become the villain, man. They are starting to become the villain of the NBA. It's just like the Lakers were. It's just like the Spurs were. It's like Golden State. Like, ultimately, you just get so tired of this team and how good they are, or what in OKC's case, how good they can and will be, that you're just tired of everything. You're tired of them winning. You're tired of them having success. And right now, they are just a dangerous team, bro. Like you said, they don't even have their best players half the time. They got, depth after depth after depth. They're coming into this draft with a lottery pick. You got no Jalen Williams with the hamstring injury, and they're just finding ways to bash your head in night after night. It's frustrating.
They have so many good two-way players. Now you said that, CP, you got me thinking, I'm not sure I remember this much disdain for a one-time NBA champion this quickly in a small market.
Right.
Let's also add that, right? Like, I can't recall it. Like, now look, people have shorter attention spans, everything is sized up with social media. But yeah, man, I think it has more to do with not just the winning, but the latter part of what you said.
Yeah.
It's the perceived continued embarrassment of riches that appears to be coming for this team.
That's right.
And I mean, you want to know, everybody talks about tanking. You want to see the league really get some tanking measures done quickly? Don't let OKC somehow move up in the top 4 of this lottery. Okay? That would be people. You want to see people mad?
Yeah.
People are going to be real mad if that happens. In what's supposed to be a generational draft, we'll see how the players project, but this is what people think. If they move up there, that's going to be it. But yeah, people don't like this OKC team. I'm personally never as bothered about the stuff with Shea and the foul drawing.
Mm.
Doesn't bother me as much as some other people. Again, good scorers draw fouls. All the top 10 scorers of all time
Yes.
average somewhere around 8, 9, 10 free throws a game. This is what it is. Shea is an elite player, and I do think foul drawing is a skill. I'm someone who believes that it is a skill. Knicks fans know who watching this. Jalen Brunson is an elite foul drawer.
Yeah.
He's good. That's why he's a great scorer because he can get to the line. Um, I don't think we have to shame people for that. But yeah, OKC is just in another class, man.
Big
It's
time.
They're in another class. They're elite. It doesn't mean I don't think they can be beat. You gotta remember, this was a team that played 2 7-game series
Yeah.
last year, and their route to the playoffs. But I just think they're so much better than the Lakers without J-Dub. They're so
Right.
much better than Lakers.
Right.
I don't think you could tell me about the refs. I don't think it matters, is what I'm basically saying. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
refs, whatever. I don't think it matters.
Not at all, man. TB the franchise, Dexter Henry in the building. Breaking news, Dex, as it relates to this Knicks versus Philly series. According to our guy, Stephen Bondi, Knicks insider, New York Post, he says this is probably not a good showing for Sixer fans tonight. According to SeatGeek, the current get-in price for Game 3 is $175, a 35.6% drop since the start of the series, which was $272. According to SeatGeek, nearly 61% of purchases for Game 3 are coming from New York, 32.9%, New Jersey, 28%, and 21.7% coming from Philadelphia. All right, so, hey, man, if you guys are headed down a turnpike for this game, use our code KFTV10 using the SeatGeek app or head over to SeatGeek.com to get your tickets because, hey, as you see, there are plenty left, and this is going to be a New York Knicks fan takeover. I got to jump on the Amtrak in just a little bit, but Dex, man, it's about to be a takeover.
I might use the K. I like that you're out here helping the people. I might use that KFT. I have to host a watch party, but I was tempted for a second. I was like, I might use CP's code, and I might just cop an Amtrak ticket, tell my boy Brian Fonseca to host it by himself, and go down and enjoy the party with the rest of y'all. You know what I mean? Like to do that.
Jump on the Iron Horse, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, man. It's going to be very interesting tonight. Final topic for you, Dex. These Jaylen Brown rumors, I think, has been kind of fascinating. I think Bill Simmons was the first one to broach the idea. You're hearing Giannis this, Giannis that. According to this guy, Brett Siegel, NBA, on Twitter, says Brad Stevens reportedly expected to evaluate Jaylen Brown's trade market. He says rival front offices are already preparing for a big change to happen to Celtics roster this offseason, and the team president, Brad Stevens, will evaluate the market for what upgrade he could possibly make in a trade involving Brown. However, this is not to say definitively that the Celtics will consider trading Brown, as Stevens' comments in his end-of-the-season interview didn't hint one way or the other. Your thoughts?
That's interesting because the Celtics are in a very interesting position as a team. Their two best players, their homegrown stars, if you want to say, in Tatum and Brown, are their two highest paid players. They take up the majority of the cap. They've had great success together. Some people may say they've underachieved with only one championship. I just want to know what that upgrade is, right? Like, if you're trading Jaylen Brown, who are you getting that is going to be a significant upgrade that is on the market? Now, one name will come to mind and thinks like, okay, are they trying to get in the Giannis sweepstakes? Yeah, but then you're going to get another guy who you're going to trade for that is undeniably going to want to sign an extension before October. So I don't see how it gives you the flexibility. This, I think, gets into a deeper point, CP, in terms of team building with the aprons and all this stuff. You got to give franchises more relief for being able to re-sign their own players. And maybe it doesn't take up as much of the cap, especially if they're homegrown. I think you should be rewarded for winning with your homegrown players, developing them, and then maybe it not taking up as much of the cap if you want to sign them to long-term deals. That's another topic for another day. But I find it interesting that Celtics would explore this because I don't think the Celtics are in this terrible position. They still have a decent amount of picks. They were able to get off with some of the big money last year trading Porzingis and Drew Holiday. So I don't think they're in this terrible position. Now, look, all teams are going to do their due diligence. I'm sure there's teams that are calling about Jaylen Brown. But I don't know. You tell me, CP. I can't think about it right now in my mind. But what's the upgrade? What's the bona fide upgrade? Unless you're trying to get somebody like a Kawhi. And hear me out. I'm not saying that he's necessarily upgraded at this point in his career with his injuries and all this stuff. But you just want to get to somebody who's, because I think Kawhi's an expiring contract. Yeah, he is in the last year's deal. So maybe you want to get off some of that money quicker. maybe you're doing that, sort of like the Clippers did with Darius Garland for James Harden. Maybe that's the play. But does that really make you better at this point? What are we talking about? A disgruntled KD
Right.
in Houston? I don't see the move. I don't see it.
I think it's foolish. Yeah, of course you're going to gauge the trade market. I think it's foolish. Why would you want to trade an MVP caliber player who keeps your championship caliber window open? I think the Giannis trade for Jaylen Brown is ridiculous, and I don't see the clear-cut upgrade. He's playing like a top 5 player in the league. So what exactly is the upgrade? Who are you going to get? You're going to trade for Jokic? That's not happening. You're going to trade for Luka? That's not happening. So, you're going to trade for SGA? That's never happening. It makes absolutely no sense.
You know what it is? You know what it is, CP? The Luka trade changed everything. Everybody thinks there's going to be one Nico Harrison out there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they're like, oh, but it's not realistic. We know that was so ridiculous. I'm with you. It's not realistic. And he keeps your championship window open, even if he takes up a large percentage of the cap. And I know he's extension eligible this summer, but he's still got 3 years left on his deal. Yeah. So, there's no urgency for that. I don't get it.
Makes absolutely no sense. Look, the clear-cut upgrade for the Celtics is from within. They got robbed of the ability to see how far they could go with the Tatum injury. Give him another offseason to completely rehab, get stronger, and try to get back to his true all-star form. He played very well in the short period of time that he returned, and you give him a lot of credit for returning, but their best case is from within. Tatum stepping it up, being healthy for a full year with Brown. Derek White, maybe he finds himself again because he completely fell off a cliff. Yeah. And then you hope that you get your younger players, those role players that surprise, the Cadas, the Garzas of the world, if you will, the Gonzalez, the kid's like 19 years old. So, hey, maybe you get Shireman. Maybe you get some improvement from those guys based on the experience that they got, the valuable experience that they got, getting that team the second seed. Stand pat. There's really no need to go out there and make any drastic moves, especially with Jaylen Brown. I think it would make zero sense for the Celtics to do that.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I'm with you 100%. It's going to come from within. It's going to come from them drafting. I think it's more likely to make a smaller deal to upgrade in a certain area. Maybe they want to upgrade at center. Vucevic didn't really work out. They didn't start him in Game 7. He didn't play in Game 7.
Exactly. He's washed. He's done.
Right.
He's done.
And they understand that. So I think they know the areas that got to get better. Trading Jaylen Brown there's not this, we're not playing fantasy basketball here. No. There's not a trade that's gonna, I think, really make the Celtics better in that regard. At
all, man. Great show, Dex. Who do you got in the studio for play-by-play tonight?
We got Maria Marino, formerly of SNY. She's going to be rocking with us for the watch party tonight. Then we'll have the post game, so be in studio. I'm sad, man. I feel like I should be going down the turnpike, hopping on the Amtrak with you, man.
You got to jump on the Iron Horse, man. Not too late to get tickets.
Yo, I'm going to be looking on social media for when you get there because I want to see what the fans are like in the building. And I got to text my boys down in Philly because one of them I know is going to the game.
Yeah,
and he's a Sixers fan, so he's going to be salty about this. But yeah, Knicks. What's your prediction for tonight before I let you go? What's your prediction?
I'm going 109-107. Knicks get the dub.
I like the Knicks in the close game. I like that, CP. I like it.
Close game.
All right.
Yeah, man.
Enjoy, brother.
He is Dexter Henry, ladies and gentlemen. Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on New York Post Sports Podcast at DHenryTV on Twitter. Dex, always a pleasure, man. Enjoy the Mother's Day, and we'll catch up. Enjoy the weekend, man. We'll catch up next week, man. Everybody
Appreciate
at home, remember that these shows are available in audio podcast format. No reason to miss it. Like, share, and subscribe. The number one shows for the fans, by the fans. Great show, everybody. We out of here. Peace.